In the heart of the galaxy, a majestic space station known as the Citadel of Luminae Prime served as the meeting place for the Galactic High Council, the ruling body that governed over thousands of spacefaring civilizations. The station orbited a dying blue sun and glowed with crystalline light, a fitting symbol of ancient grandeur and unity. Representatives of countless species assembled in the central chamber, each one boasting their own rich culture, heritage, and cosmic pedigree. Among the oldest members were the Melke-Soon, whose members had interconnected minds stretching back millennia. They remembered the birth of quasars and spoke in echoes. The Kirin, crystalline beings, claimed uninterrupted historical continuity since the formation of their home nebula. And the Zelthori, proud and predatory, believed their bloodlines were forged in the furnace of a billion suns. Amid these old and powerful beings stood the delegation from Earth, known formally as the Terran Concord. Humanity had only recently entered the galactic scene. With barely a few centuries of space travel under their belt and only decades since achieving faster-than-light capabilities, they were viewed with a mix of curiosity, amusement, and condescension. Most council members considered Earth a young, ambitious civilization that had arrived at the galactic table far too early. Their application to join had been accepted not because of influence, but because of the Council's belief in inclusion, and quietly, because humanity was seen as harmless. The Terran delegation was led by Ambassador Layla Hassan, a poised and sharp diplomat who had spent the last few years enduring subtle and not-so-subtle slights from her alien counterparts. Despite her professionalism, she was well aware of how they truly saw her people. The Zelthari called humans ambitious toddlers. The Gorok, a species of moss-covered titans, often offered guidance, the same way one might humor a child who thinks they're ready to command a starship. In truth, humanity had been assigned no meaningful tasks in the Council. They were rarely given speaking time. Their historical contributions were seen as shallow, their myths irrelevant. The Council archivists had once even declared that Earth's oldest written records, barely 5 millennia old, were modern footnotes. To beings whose recorded memories stretched back tens of millions of years, humans were nothing more than the latest arrivals. That perception began to shift when the Council turned its attention to the Larati Vault, an ancient alien structure discovered buried on the rogue world Orthan 6, a frozen, atmosphere-less planet drifting through interstellar darkness. The vault had mystified xenorchaeologists for generations. Despite advanced translators, telepathic historians, and genetic memory readers, no one had been able to decipher the glyphs inscribed on the vault's walls. They were older than the oldest records, from a civilization forgotten even by the Melka Suon. Council Speaker Varn of the Kyrene brought up the vault's unsolved mystery during the session, hoping a new effort would shed light on its origin. Yet, when volunteers were requested for another attempt to decode the language, no one moved. After centuries of failure, even the most ambitious scholars had lost interest. And then, a voice broke the silence. Ambassador Layla Hassan stood up and calmly declared, "The Terran delegation will accept." A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. It was unthinkable. Earth? The newcomers? A race so young they still used physical money on some continents? The idea was laughable. Speaker Varn tilted his faceted head and addressed Layla with carefully measured words, bordering on mockery. "You believe your species barely emerged from its cradle can decipher a language older than time?" Layla offered a small, confident smile. "We won't be deciphering it," she said. "We'll be reading it." The room froze. Those words carried weight, not arrogance, but certainty. It wasn't a claim of academic skill or computational strength. It was something deeper. The way she said, "reading it," suggested familiarity, as if the impossible symbols were not unknown to humanity, but merely forgotten. In that moment, something shifted in the atmosphere of the chamber. For the first time, the alien delegations looked at the Terrans not as eager upstarts, but as something unsettlingly mysterious. The council approved the human expedition to the vault with mild amusement, still convinced of their inevitable failure. But Layla's words would echo long after the session closed. What no one realized, what humanity itself had only just begun to suspect, was that Earth was not young. Earth was old, older than memory, older than the stars that now mocked it, and the vault would prove it. The location known as the Larati Vault was more than a ruin. It was a crypt the galaxy itself had tried to forget. Hidden beneath the frozen, atmosphere-less crust of Orthon 6, a rogue planet without a sun, it had remained untouched for eons. This wasn't some crumbling ruin, it was a deliberate construction, monolithic, cold, sealed, and alive in a way no one understood. Previous expeditions had yielded little. Teams from every major civilization had tried. The Zelthari brought neural link translators. The Goruk tried brute force telepathic resonance. The Melke soon even placed memory tracing devices in the walls to try and listen to echoes of the past. All failed. The vault remained a mystery. And now, humans were the latest to try. The team was small, only 3 Terrans, unlike the usual dozens fielded by other species. Ambassador Layla Hassan came as Earth's official observer, political shield, and silent strategist. Julian Okoye, a linguist and semiotician from Nairobi, was humanity's best at pattern recognition in ancient texts. He'd spent his life decoding forgotten proto-languages on Earthlinear A, IVC seals, ancient numeric lexicons. And then there was Dr. Mara Tennant, an old woman with white-streaked hair and a military record so heavily redacted that even Earth's own governments couldn't agree on what she'd done. Mara was odd. She didn't carry gear like the others. She didn't talk much. But Julian respected her, and Layla trusted her, and that was enough. The inside of the vault was like stepping into another dimension. Layered, spiraling walls bore symbols etched with inhuman precision. The walls shimmered in subtle shades of violet and silver, and embedded in the stone were crystalline threads that pulsed like veins. The air, though technically non-existent in the vacuum, seemed to hum with it. Potential. The alien inscriptions were complex beyond reason. Not just one language, but many, interwoven and recursive. Glyphs bled into geometry. Numbers flowed like rivers. There were symbols that changed based on viewing angle, others that only appeared under certain frequencies of light. The rest of the Joint Research Team scientists from other galactic powers stood dumbfounded, but Mara stepped forward without hesitation. She walked up to a particular wall, tilted her head, and moved her hand in the air, tracing invisible patterns in front of the GLYPHS. It was a gesture that no translation AI recognized. Julian leaned forward, confused. "What are you doing?" Mara didn't answer at first. Then, softly, she began to speak. The language was like nothing the aliens had ever heard before, rough and rhythmic, yet oddly beautiful. Deep vowels, clicks, and throat-heavy consonants. The room vibrated with her voice. The words echoed not as sound alone, but through the structure itself. The glyphs on the walls reacted, lighting up one by one, spreading outward in symmetrical bursts. Some detached from the walls and hovered, spinning slowly, glowing with heatless light. The vault was waking up. Gasps rippled through the chamber. The alien scientists backed away in awe and fear. Layla simply watched, jaw tight, eyes calculating. Julian stared at Mara, stunned. What language was that? Mara looked at him, eyes distant like she was still halfway in another world. "It's Proto-Hurrian," she said quietly. "We found fragments of it on Earth, in Anatolia. It predates written Sumerian. But that's impossible, Julian murmured. That's an Earth origin language. No, she said firmly. That's what we thought, but now? This proves it didn't start on Earth. It was preserved there. The implication was staggering. If an Earth language one predating recorded history could awaken a construct so ancient the galaxy had forgotten its name, then humanity's history wasn't just misunderstood. It was incomplete, and this vault wasn't just reacting to human speech, it was responding to human memory. The cadence, the syntax, the rhythm. It was coded to listen for something Mara still held in her blood. Somehow, in the deep layers of Earth's ancient past, beneath the flood myths and shattered tablets, there was a whisper from the stars. A legacy too old for even Earth's historians to understand, but not too old to recognize its descendants. Layla's voice cut through the awe. Start recording everything. Send the activation pattern to command. Mara stepped back visibly, shaken. I didn't just speak to it, she murmured. It recognized me. The vault pulsed again. Lights flickered deeper within the chamber, leading further inward toward secrets locked away for eons. For the first time since joining the galactic community, Earth wasn't following behind. They were walking ahead, and soon the galaxy would realize humanity wasn't new. We were the ones who came before. News of the vault's activation spread like wildfire across the galaxy. To most species of the Galactic High Council, the Lurati Vault had long been a curiosity, a cold monument to a civilization too old to study and too dead to fear. But now, for the first time in galactic history, it had responded not to machines, not to telepaths or linguists, but to a human voice. And not just any voice. A human-speaking Proto-Hurrian, a language dead on Earth for over 10,000 years. One that had never been fully understood until now. The vault had recognized it, had reacted to it, lit up, shifted, awakened. The shock was immediate and galaxy-wide. Many species struggled to grasp the implications. How could a planet like Earth, a so-called newcomer with only a few centuries of space travel, hold the key to unlocking ancient galactic artifacts? The dominant narrative had always been that humans were brash, young, and inexperienced, allowed species from a chaotic death world, with more emotion than wisdom, but the facts now painted a different picture. Back on Lumine Prime, Layla Hassan presented the findings from the Lurati Vault before the Council. What she unveiled shattered centuries of accepted truth. The vault's carvings, once thought decorative, were actually historical records, and many had now been translated thanks to the base similarities to Earth's oldest proto-languages. Among the key discoveries was the identification of a name carved in the oldest chamber, Humatera. Layla let the word hang in the air before breaking it down. Huma meaning seed, or origin in multiple ancient Terran dialects. Terra Earth. The council chamber stirred. Layla delivered the bombshell. The name translates directly as seeded Earth or Earth of origin. The vault had listed Humatera as a seed world of the Builders, an ancient race known only in whispers and half-myths across scattered records in the archives of other civilizations. Long thought extinct, the Builders were credited with shaping galactic infrastructure before any known current race had emerged. The implication was staggering. Earth was not an accidental player on the galactic stage. It had been chosen, or perhaps even created as a safeguard, a final resting ground for Builder knowledge. This wasn't theory anymore. This was recorded history, now verified in Builder glyphs, and Earth's linguistic fingerprints were found everywhere within them. Julian Okoye presented deeper analysis. Through advanced linguistic mapping, he had found direct correlations between the glyph structures in the vault and fragments of dozens of mysterious Earth scripts. Linear A from Minoan Crete. The Indus Valley Seals, previously undeciphered. The Rongorongo script of Easter Island. Even strange repeating pulses in the 20th century WOW signal, once dismissed as a one-off anomaly. All showed structural overlap with the vault's writing. They weren't coincidences. They were fragment shards of a language Earth had inherited. The assembled alien delegates were shaken. Even the Melkaysoon, the oldest known species with mind-encoded memory dating back tens of millions of years, admitted they had no record of this language or civilization. Their archives showed blank spots where this race should have been. Entire gaps in galactic memory. One Melkaysoon elder even murmured, "Perhaps we did not forget. Perhaps we were made to forget." The Cairene speaker, long an advocate of human mentorship, now addressed Layla with open caution. "What are you saying, Ambassador?" he asked, voice like chiming glass. "That humans are descended from the builders?" Layla replied calmly, "I'm saying we never truly understood where we came from. And now, we know that Earth's history began long before we started writing it down." Then she added, more pointedly, "You called us newcomers, but we are the remnants of your founders." The chamber fell into stunned silence. The Zelfari, proud and warlike, reacted with unease. Some refused to believe it, claiming that humans were manipulating data. Others demanded access to the vault. Still more demanded. Earth submit its ancient relics for re-examination, but truth cannot be buried once it begins to shine. A council resolution was passed, demanding immediate access to Earth's deep archives, including archaeological sites, ancient ruins, and lost languages. To many humans, this was terrifying, but to Layla and the Terran leadership, it was validation. The Terrans weren't uncovering something new. They were remembering something old. Something encoded in their myths and dreams. Something hinted at in Earth's strange collective unconscious tales of sky gods, watchers, and golden beings that once walked among humans. Now it made sense. Those myths were memories. Earth wasn't the latest spark in the cosmic fire. Earth was a dying ember from the original flame, and now that flame was stirring once again. With the Lurati Vault now partially awakened and humanity's connection to the builders undeniable, a deeper expedition was organized. For the first time in history, humans led the mission not as assistants or observers, but as rightful heirs to what lay beneath. The vault, having responded to Dr. Mara Tennett's voice, began to shift internally. Its once dormant passageways pulsed with soft light, forming a glowing path inward. Guided by Mara, Julian, and Layla, the multinational research team pushed into the heart of the alien structure. Security was tight, and nervous aliens followed, still unsure whether to revere or fear their human colleagues. The deeper they went, the more surreal the vault became. The outer chambers were carved stone, metal, and crystalline, but comprehensible. But inside, physics itself bent slightly, as if the place weren't fully anchored to conventional reality. Walls folded in impossible directions. Colors shifted depending on thought and movement. Certain sounds triggered changes in the lighting and texture of the environment. It was less like a building and more like a living memory. At the center, they found the source. A black obelisk, 5 meters tall, floated silently above a dais. Its surface was matte, but threaded with golden veins that pulsed faintly. It radiated no heat, no energy signature, just a presence that couldn't be measured by any known device. This was not just a record. This was a memory. Engine. Julian theorized that it wasn't a machine in the traditional sense, but a conscious archive, a quantum construct that contained not only data but actual cognitive patterns, emotional structures, and perhaps even the digital ghosts of the builders themselves. This was the culmination of what ancient Terran myths had called the living book, or the word that remembers itself. The obelisk required a key to access. Not just touch or technology, but a vocal command, a phrase in the first tongue, spoken in perfect cadence. Once again, the task fell to Dr. Mara Tennant. She approached the obelisk, hands slightly shaking, not from fear, but from weight. Some part of her had begun to realize she wasn't simply unlocking alien technology. She was finishing something begun eons ago. Her voice, steady but filled with quiet reverence, echoed the opening sequence, a song-like structure from Proto-Hurrian, woven with glottal stops, chants, and tones. The obelisk responded instantly. The golden veins brightened, pulsing in sync with her voice. Then, a beam of light shot out from the obelisk and struck Mara directly between the eyes. Panic broke out. Julian lunged forward, and a dozen alien scientists shouted warnings. But Layla held up a hand, stopping them. Mara was not hurt. She floated gently above the ground, surrounded by shimmering symbols only she could see. The room dimmed and time seemed to still. The vault wasn't attacking her. It was communicating. Was the receiver. When the connection ended, Mara collapsed gently back onto the floor, breathing shallowly but alive. She awoke several hours later in the expedition's medical unit, wide-eyed and whispering. "I saw it all," she said. Remembered it. Mara's consciousness had been flooded with builder memories, not in words, but in experiences. Visions of vast cities suspended in the atmospheres of gas giants, world-shaping technology, beings of golden bioluminescent skin moving through time as easily as space. Their greatest achievement had not been technology. It had been the preservation of wisdom. The builders had foreseen their end, not from war, but from entropy, the great cosmic decay. As stars died and dark energy expanded, they sought to preserve themselves through seeds scattered across the galaxy. Each seed was a planet, terraformed and implanted with knowledge encoded in languages, genomes, myths waiting for the right mind, the right tongue, to awaken the memory. Earth was one of those seeds. Perhaps the last dot, and now it had begun to bloom. Mara had only received a fraction of the memory engine's contents, but it was enough to confirm everything. "We weren't just visited," she said. "We were made to remember. Our myths, our ancient gods, our symbols, they were pieces of a map, a warning, a guide." Layla's response was swift. A report was sent to the council. The message was clear. Earth was not a primitive world. Humanity was not a fluke of evolution. And the vault was not an isolated relic, it was one of many. The memory engine also contained coordinates, other vaults, other memory caches, scattered across dead worlds and forgotten systems, waiting for someone to awaken them, and each one was encoded with the same key. The revelations from the Lurati Vault and the memory engine were nothing short of a galactic upheaval. The entire foundation of the Galactic High Council, the belief in a linear, documented progression of species emerging into space, had been shaken. For as long as anyone could remember, humanity was seen as a promising but primitive species. Its sudden rise to FTL capability was impressive, yes, but still interpreted as a recent spark in the galaxy's ancient furnace. But now, the truth had surfaced. Earth was not a footnote in galactic history. It was a chapter lost, buried beneath millennia of myth and natural disaster. The memory engine confirmed what Mara had experienced through the builder visions. Earth was Huma Terra, a designated seed world left by the builders as part of their last hope to preserve their legacy after the encroachment of entropy. The builders hadn't merely visited Earth, they had terraformed it, nurtured it, encoded their history within it, and left behind languages, structures, and even neurological imprints that would persist across generations. Humanity had evolved not apart from the galactic tapestry, but within the hidden seams of its oldest design. And now that seed had bloomed out in the weeks following the vault's activation. Signals from across the galaxy responded to the same vocal commands spoken in Proto-Hurrian. Dormant vaults on other worlds came online, dozens at first, then hundreds. Black obelisks lit up on moons, deep under oceans, beneath deserts, and within long-dead worlds. Ancient builder archives thought lost forever began transmitting data. Each new vault responded only to the same specific frequency, the cadence of human languages. Not just Proto-Hurrian, but elements embedded in Earth's oldest scripts I knew. Tonal patterns, Mayan glyphs, Basque structure, even linguistic quirks from isolated Pacific Island dialects. The connection was irrefutable. Earth had preserved the key across scattered cultures. Despite having no memory of its origin, the Galactic Council, once patronizing toward Earth, was now in a state of awe, confusion, and in some cases panic. The Zelthari, who once dismissed Earth as a volatile upstart, now found themselves politically cornered. Their demands to regulate humanity's access to the Builder Vaults were struck down. Too many species wanted access to what Earth now unlocked. The Melkaysoon, ancient and wise, reacted differently. They withdrew into council silence for several days, then emerged with a rare statement. We remember only shadows. You bring light. The builders do not return, but through you they remain. With those words, they formally requested Earthshare custodianship of the ancient roots the vaults had revealed. In response, Earth launched a new initiative, the Flameburn Accord, a joint expeditionary and archaeological effort led by humans, but open to any species willing to explore builder ruins under Earth's guidance. For the first time in galactic history, humans weren't requesting permission, they were offering it. This marked a critical shift in Earth's political position. Ambassador Layla Hassan stood once more in the council chamber, this time not in a seat near the wall, but at the central dais traditionally reserved for First Worlds. She wore no armor, carried no weapon, but the memory of the builders burned behind her eyes. She addressed the assembly calmly. You assumed we were born yesterday. You called us children. But we are your inheritance. Your myths speak of the first ones, those who carved galaxies, shaped minds, and scattered seeds. We are the last of those seeds. She gestured toward the stars, and now we remember. Now we rise not as your students, but as your forgotten elders. The room was silent, not because of disbelief, but because, on some level, they already knew. All across the galaxy, signs had long pointed to a missing progenitor race. Historians had spoken of the strange similarities in ancient relics, the unexplained linguistic echoes, the recurring myths of sky fathers or star mothers. Most had dismissed these coincidences as parallel evolution or psychological projection. Now it was clear. The coincidences were breadcrumbs, trail left for humanity to one day follow back to the stars. That day had come, and as Earth ships, linguists and explorers activated more vaults and lit up forgotten pathways, the galaxy began to change. Entire civilizations reoriented their understanding of time. Young species looked to Earth not with scorn, but with reverence. The term newcomer was quietly removed from Earth's official classification. In its place, a new designation appeared in the Council's registry, Humaterra, Earth. Status: Seed World, Legacy. Builder origin, role, memory bearer, and for the first time in millennia, the builders spoke again through their final descendants. The humans had remembered, and the stars listened.